We're live from the Capitol. Welcome to our positively dystopian episode of Positively Literary.
We're your hosts,
Bianca Rowena
and Stephanie Costigan.
and today we are talking about dystopian books, and I am so excited because I love all things dystopian, except maybe when it's in real life, which we are seeing nowadays. And we're also in an alternate universe with our
bangs.
bangs.
Don't we look rebellious?
We were trying to look rebellious.
Actually, it's funny because some dystopian books, I know during certain sensitive times, the government has tried to ban them in certain places.
Oh, interesting. Oh my goodness, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually have little quotes from books that are basically talking about what's happening now, and they're from dystopian books. And I'll talk about more about this later, but the new book from The Hunger Games, the latest book, came out, and I started reading it, and I had to stop because I started to cry, and I'll tell you why. It's just hitting too close to home, which is scary. But first,
What are we drinking?
Okay, so see these little cups? Because
These are our dystopian cups.
I was gonna say in these hard times when there's so much.
We're rationed.
These are our small. This is the only ration of hot chocolate and coffee that we are allowed for this week.
This month.
Well, the fact that even that we have coffee, that's because we're hosts for the Capitol. Otherwise, we wouldn't have cups or anything in the cups. Speaking of what's in my cup, it is Barking Cat. Look at this, guys. Barking Cat. So this lady, I met her. You know when we were in Claire's home and we
doing
did
a book signing.
We were doing a book signing in Claire's home, and we're going around to the different booths, and this lady, she grinds her own coffee. Like, she does this roasting of this coffee, and I got the campfire blend. I think she's in Claire's home, and it's called Barking Cat. So I don't know, you guys can look that up, but it's really
delicious.
good. Yeah, really good coffee. And she didn't have like medium and light. Like, she was just selling out because it's a great
Does she
coffee.
sell hot chocolate?
Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe she had some. Anyhow, okay,
Diving in.
I love your bangs, by the way. Okay, I am getting really warm. Oh, wow.
Oh, what?
Whoa,
What's going
this?
on? Oh my goodness.
Is this Positively Literary merch?
Whoa, is that a thing?
Well, it looks like there's Stephanie here and Bianca here, me.
So, if you want to give tribute to support us in these hard times when we're in the games, you can always buy a Positively Literary shirt. It will help us during these games.
These hard times, yes. Guess what we're doing, and you didn't even know.
What?
We are doing a dystopian Most Likely To.
Ooh, I'm excited! Woo, party it up! Any high presents now?
Yeah, we weren't too happy about President Snow, but the book before this one.
No. Wait, with the prequel?
So yes, it was. Did you see the movie? It was about President Snow
when
as
he was
a
young.
teenager, whatever. They actually did a really good job with the movie, but
Okay.
most likely to lead a rebellion against the oppressive government. Okay, huh. Most likely to discover a hidden underground bunker. Oh my gosh, okay. Most likely to be recruited by a secret resistant movement. I don't know.
I feel like both. I could see
Yeah.
both of us.
I could see you because you're like connected. You're connected with everything. You have connections. But with me, it's like people, I think that they would recruit me.
I would drag you with me.
Okay.
You would stumble into it unwillingly.
I think either that, I'm kind of changing my mind. I think that it would be Stephanie. Okay. Most likely to invent new revolutionary technology. Oh, thank you. Yes. I would be all about, you know how sometimes they have radio stations because the government controls all the media, whatever, but then you kind of have this radio wave station out there that no one knows about, you're trying to connect. That's what I would be doing. Okay. Most likely to make a life-threatening sacrifice to save humanity.
That's true.
I'm so proud of you. It would be you.
It would be.
It
I
would
know
be
it
you.
would be.
I'm so self-preservationary, whatever.
You're
Okay.
survival of the fittest.
Survival of myselfist. Okay. I should admit that. Okay, most likely to discover a conspiracy.
I would stumble upon it by accident.
She just told me a conspiracy when we were filming our last episode, and I was like, what? I'm not going to share it on camera, but it was about a very high-level person in government, and I just... Okay, most likely to develop a surveillance state where citizens are closely monitored. How are you choosing me? I would want to do that even if we weren't in a dystopian novel. Like, that would be fun. Surveillance.
Should be good at it.
Surveillance of everyone. I want to find out what everyone's doing. Keep the logs. And most likely to create a world where virtual reality is almost indistinguishable from real reality. I'm gonna say Stephanie only because for me that would be a nightmare. Like I strongly dislike the idea of virtual reality taking over like us doing things in real life because
I don't either.
You know, but we already kind of do that because we're making these friends that aren't in real life it's because I watched Sword Art Online and they are trapped in this game. It's an anime, so they're trapped in the game.
I feel like I've heard of that.
You get further along and then their bodies are lying in this bed. Which book do you think is my favorite book? I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
I have 3 copies of this on my bookshelf, and sometimes if someone new comes over or something, I'm like, I want you to guess which is my favorite book. The reason I have 3 is because I bought one and I loved it, and I lent it out to someone, and then they never give it back, and I was like, oh, I need my book. So I bought another one. I'm like, okay, I feel better now. And then she returned it to me. And then my other friend went to a conference where she got it signed by the author for me. So this is my signed copy, which I have not cracked open. Oh, it says, wait, does it say signed copy? I love this book. I won't talk too much about it. It's called Matched by Ali Condi. I love the way she writes, the world she made. And so in this dystopian society, you're not allowed to write. You're not allowed to write and read, I think. It's been a while since I read it. So this one boy teaches her how to write letters. It's just how powerful it is to be able to write. I got into this recently. So I'm glad I'm into something recent, because sometimes we do these episodes and it's like books from a long time ago. But the Shatter Me series, have you heard of the Shatter Me? I didn't like it when I first started reading it because she just feels like a victim.
Oh, you don't like the victim mentality.
Yeah, in her world. I mean, she is trapped in an insane asylum and can't get out. But you can feel the personality of her, that she is trapped in, not just in the asylum, but in her own mind. And funny enough, as you go through the different books, you start to realize that she is realizing it. I kind of made my way through this and then started to like it near the end. And then I became hooked when I got into like book 2. I really was rooting for the bad guy. Sorry, this is not book 2 because she wrote Shatter Me and then Unravel Me, Ignite Me, Restore Me, which I haven't gotten to yet.
Unite Me.
So now Unite Me is between, so see Shatter Me and this one. She wrote this, it happens in between these 2 books, and it's kind of like there's 2 in here. One from the point of view of one guy and one from the point of view of another guy.
Looks like she has a lot.
She does have a lot, so I only got as far as Restore Me. There's like Defy Me, Imagine Me,
Find Me.
So what that says, Find Me and Believe Me. It is addictive. I think because she does have such a transformation into like a very powerful, well, her power is something that she absolutely hates, because I guess it's not really a spoiler to say, because you kind of find out right away that she can't touch anyone or else it'll kill them.
Like Rogue.
It's good. It's really good. In fact, it's so good that I had to step away. I never continued after book 3 because I was like, this is consuming my life. And I get very obsessive sometimes, and when I feel like I'm obsessing with something, I start to feel like that's unhealthy spiritually. Does that make sense? I started to be too in love with the bad guy let's have a drink. But you know what? That leads into this book, because the mentality of this main character, I stopped reading and I was like, I'm sorry, as popular as this book is, as much as I want to know what happens after this part, I'm not going to read this anymore. Not with what's happening nowadays with men. So I'm going to read the part to you. This is where I stopped reading and I was like, I'm done.
I'm so curious now.
Okay.
I want to hear this.
And then I'll kind of tell you why this ties into like kind of, oh, this is actually very interesting. So a lot of people know this book. So it's called 1984 and it's a dystopian. I think one of the first dystopians ever.
Really?
Yes, because it was written in 1949. So this guy
Oh,
wrote
1940s. Wow.
Yeah, so he wrote this in the 1940s thinking about the way future ahead. So in his mind, 1984 was this dystopian world, and it's funny how he actually uses technology and screens telling you like government information and stuff. So it almost feels like the 80s. That's why it's such a brilliant book, and I wanted to read it. But I got to this part, as you can see, it's only in chapter 1, and I was like, I'm not going to read this book because the main character. Okay, ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Let's listen.
They're sitting and they're watching a screen, whatever. Winston is the main guy. Winston succeeded in transferring his hatred from the face on the screen to the dark-haired girl behind him. Vivid, beautiful hallucinations flashed through his mind. He would flog her to death with a rubber truncheon. He would tie her naked to a stake and shoot her full of arrows like Saint Sebastian. He would ravish her and cut her throat at the moment of climax. Better than before, moreover, he realized why it was that he hated her. He hated her because she was young and pretty and sexless. Because he wanted to go to bed with her and would never do so. Because around her sweet, supple waist, which seemed to ask you to encircle it with your arms, there was only the odious scarlet sash, aggressive symbol of chastity. So here's the thing. There are girls, this one is, she's in her 20s, that have this chastity so the guys can't sleep with them. So this hatred, even though it's just a character, it rang too close to home with what I'm seeing, not everywhere, but I watch some YouTube stuff where the girls are talking about how more and more single men are getting more and more angry because they feel entitled to women. This is what it felt like to me, that he's like, can't sleep with this person, so he hates her so much, and that like slitting her throat at that moment of, that is so messed up. What I'm gonna do, by the way.
And that's the main character. That's the hero.
That's the hero, and I can't move past that. I can't move past that.
That's just, I think the reason it's so disturbing is because it's so close to the reality we live in, where there's entitlement, where like women, he's not looking at this woman as if she's a human being.
Okay, yes. Like if I can't have access to her body, like hating someone because they won't,
it's a powerful word. That is.
Yeah, I was so disappointed because I was gonna read this for this episode. And so I was getting into it, and okay, I'll tell you, at the beginning, I was very impressed. This was written in the 40s, and it read like a young adult dystopian novel now. It was fairly easy to read. I'm single, okay, and even just looking at like single profiles, I haven't been dating, I haven't dated in a while, and I don't really...
Well, even me, I'm not single, yet there's still some like disrespect, and not until my husband steps in do people be like, oh, sorry, other men, because they have respect for
only the man, but not for you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff online and videos where men are so angry because they feel entitled to, every man should have a woman or something, and they're like, well, if I can't get that, I'm so mad at them, like she ignored me. And that's how the 4B movement started, where a girl in Korea was killed by a guy only because she ignored him. If the men aren't interested in me, I'd be like, oh, that kind of sucks. And then I would continue on with the things I'm doing and be like, okay, now I'm working on my YouTube channel, I'm working on my novel. I'm not like, I hate them, I wish I could...
I'm boycotting them.
Or I wish I could destroy them. It doesn't have to be that way. And I was There it is. Okay, that was goodbye. This isn't a dystopian. This is a novel written by Stephanie. And the reason I brought it out is because some of these dystopians, which I will read a little bit from, are sounding too much like nowadays. But Stephanie's book is back in the
1940s.
In the 40s, but Nazi, is that the right way to spell it? Germany time. I had marked these spots where when I'm reading it, I'm like, that sounds like what's happening in the States right now. Which is so scary. This is something, you didn't know I was going to quote you.
I didn't.
So, okay, when you have a political leader like this, you know it is only a matter of time before your freedom is stolen right from underneath you. Well, I'm not going to make any comments about the political leaders. There's so many similarities. Patterns. Scary. I'm glad we live in Canada, but we're pretty close to what's happening. Which brings me to this book. But we also have a special guest, and I wanted to mention the special guest. So I have talked about Adam Dreece before, and we did a sci-fi episode where I actually talked about Cloud9 because
that's right,
yeah, there's like technology, but to be honest, it's more of a dystopian than anything. So I reached out to Adam Dreece and was like, you're a local author who's written dystopian. Can you please be a guest on our show? And he said yes. Okay, so we asked Adam, how does technology both oppress and empower your characters in Cloud9? Do you have experience in startup businesses, tech research, or working for a tech giant? Or did you shadow a tech company employee or owner when writing Cloud9? So I wanted to ask specifically about Cloud9 because I'm very curious about how he shaped this world. Let's hear from Adam.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about Man of Cloud9, answering some questions, sharing a little bit behind the scenes. So first and foremost, how do I know anything about startup companies and the like? See, at the heart of this book, we've got Nico, who's got this idea that he just can't get away from. That becomes an idea in university, that becomes then a small company, that then keeps growing and growing. And every step along the way, pressure is being applied to him to just shut down, just to stop doing that, right? Who do you think you are to try to shake the world? So, when I was in university, I went to the University of Waterloo in computer science and philosophy. I had a couple of startup ideas I tried to get off the ground. Then my career moved on to Silicon Valley, where I had some ideas I tried to get off the ground, and I worked with actual startups and really started to build my career up in technology. Over the years, I've worked for Microsoft. I've been the chief technology officer for not one, but 2 startups. So I've really had an inside look as to how does it work with founders, ideas, what kind of personalities really drive ideas to become huge, and what kind of obstacles do they face, what demons do they battle with, etc. And in Nico's case, it is taking a technology that is banned, right? And then just trying to show the world that it was wrong about that idea. So in addition to leveraging my own personal experience, I went and read a biography of Steve Jobs, just to be able to get that narrative as well, and then kind of weave those two things together. So probably more than any other book that I've written to date, The Man of Cloud9 has a lot more of my actual history woven into it. So another question that you had, which I thought was great, was how does technology both act as an oppressor and an empowering force for Nico? So to start that, I go to the idea, which is the root of it, which is this nanotechnology, this nano cloud technology that he's been working on. And it is outlawed, it is tied a bit to the death of his parents, and he can't get away from it. So it's not so much the technology that acts as an oppressor, but rather society. See, there was like an accident that happened, some people died, and then it was deemed this technology was too dangerous to go forward. And then here he comes years later being super genius and realizing the mistake that was made with that technology. And at every turn, he's just shut down, right? Trying to do his master's thesis on this, just shut down. Everybody just wants him to stop, just stop. And if you've ever had that feeling that people just couldn't hear your idea, or you're just being shut down without it being really voiced, that if you could just say it loud enough or true enough, then others would adopt it. That's what's at the heart of this. And no matter what he does, no matter how much it ruins his life, he can't let it go. And then whenever you have a force like that that is pushing for change, you always have someone who decides to make you their, like, to be the villain of your story, or in their view, they're Lex Luthor, or you're Superman. You are the alien force that needs to be dealt with. So that's a key part of it as well. And for me, the technology that he was able to bring about was startling to people, right? Like, from a consumer perspective, it was great, but also from a research, the impact it was going to have, it was a really startling thing. And so for him, the idea as well as the technology kind of acted like a prison for him. He couldn't get away from it, right? Literally up till the very, very end do we see how it is acting both as a prison for him and as an enabler. When I was writing the book, I also started to write a sequel, which I never, or I shouldn't say never, I have not yet finished, not yet decided to put my energy there. But it continues that story. So this was always intended to be a much larger arc. But at the heart of this, I wanted this story really to be grounded in reality, in that sense of being a startup founder, in that sense of what does it take and what does it emotionally cost to get there, right? And how it kind of separates you from those people around you, and you can start to end up shedding those people, because no matter what, you can't let that element go. And that's the tragedy and innovation element of it. So there you go. Have a look. Let me know what you think. Talk to you later.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Adam, and that's awesome. I like to hear the process of how authors not just come up with ideas, but how they make it so realistic, right? Because this was like a tech giant. So yeah, thank you for that. And I'm excited to talk about the next Hunger Games book, because, so the one before this, the movie was pretty good. I like what they did with it. It
followed the book.
It did. It followed the book. Okay, well, I wasn't terribly impressed with the book. I was having a hard time getting through it, actually. So I've heard good things about this one, and I started reading it so we can talk about the book. And I had to stop because I felt I was getting teary-eyed and was like, well, I'm going to start to cry. I'm going to read this later. And it's because in these dystopians, if you've noticed, like, it's the women that are so resilient. It's the mothers. So at the beginning...
And defiant,
and they're the ones. So he has some shorts that are made from like a sack that his mom sewed for him, and his mom's making money by doing laundry for people who can kind of afford to get their laundry done. And, she just knows how to take the rations. And he kind of talks about it at the beginning, taking the rations and making food with it, making the best of everything that they have and using every little thing. And that's what women do. Like, we always find a way. Like, I noticed in these dystopians, there's a mom who's struggling and trying to feed all her kids and making every last bit of food count. But it's the women that have to be strong and resilient. And I was thinking about how resilient I had to become after I got divorced, because I went to 15% of what household income I had before to this new household income, and I had to become really creative. Like, for example, I'll cook one crock pot with beef and potatoes, and that's my 4 days of food. So that's both lunch and dinner. Well, that's mostly my dinners for 4 days. There's soup in there. There's potatoes for evening, and I make one batch of muffins, which is my lunch for the whole week too, because I have a muffin with coffee. But it's like highly fat muffin, which gives you, and I'm not like skinny or anything. I'm eating well, but I have to be very specific with money, and I've just learned. And in this book too, that's what she does. Like, he found some plums in the forest, so she boiled them or stewed them and then added a little bit of sugar, so now they can use it as a jam. And do you know what I mean? And like, you have 4 kids, so you're almost also forced into the role of making sure that everything lasts, like everyone's got clothes and shoes,
Exactly.
and food, and that's the resilience you need in a dystopian world, which we're kind of coming to with, especially in the States. But
I think, you know, just being a mom, especially why like women are kind of, especially in dystopian, they're more the protagonists. Not that there aren't men, but there are, but like.
So I'm going to mention that this is actually very interesting. The protagonist in this is Haymitch, and this is when Haymitch was 16 years old, and when he does his reaping, when he gets into the Hunger Games. It's the 50th Hunger Games in this book, and it's Haymitch. It's one of the first glimpses we have of Haymitch is with his mom taking care of everything, his mom taking care of him and his little brother, and, you know, pulling all, even if the woman isn't the protagonist, like in this one, she's still, it's the women that are like holding it together.
It's a key point. So yeah, no, I think we're like the caregivers, you know, we don't just live for ourselves. It's easy, if you think about it, it's easy to be like, oh, I give up or whatever, when it's just you. But when you're forced to, like, in a way, kind of forced to care for others that you share deeply, like, bond with.
And their lives are in your hands.
Exactly, and they're innocent.
Yeah.
Then you'll do every single thing you possibly can and more for them than you would for yourself.
And I think we both have experienced where the finances are so low that we have to get creative. Like even, okay, so I can't, let's say I can't afford, but I won't be buying a cosplay. I have this rule of never saying you can't afford something. So not budgeting to buy a cosplay, but I got this for like $4 at Value Village, and I sewed this on. So now this is, was it the Squid Games, right? And because I wanted to have something for our episode, and yeah, just being creative in that way. This is something I wanted to say. So in the Hunger Games, the people are so poor, and then there are some people that are rich, but they're just like a lot of these sections. What are they called? Like there's like the different sections. Districts. So District 12, there's a lot of really poor districts, and you can't get a job. Like it's starting to happen now. Like what do you do? Like if no one can afford to pay you, like you can't get a job. But you know what never dies is things like entertainment. In the 1930s, like the dirty 30s, where people were really, really poor, like just, you know, one potato.
Scraping by.
Yeah. Shirley Temple. So Shirley Temple was making black and white films. So people who could barely eat would go to see these films because it was the only thing. It was the only...
making them happy. It distracted.
It was the only like little bit of hope. Like at the end of the month, I can go see the Shirley Temple film and the next one. So the Shirley Temple movies were making millions of dollars during the dirty 30s.
Wow.
They were still making like millions of dollars on these films. And the reason why that blew my mind, that piece of information, is because even in something like the Hunger Games, you see that they play that game because it's entertainment to the rich people. And I just feel like you don't know with jobs, you can't ever be guaranteed with jobs, but something like if we create making novels and making YouTube channel, and if anything's left at the very bottom barrel, it'll actually be entertainment. This is just my own, sorry for the spiel.
Oh, and I just wanted to share a little bit about this book.
Oh, so you met this author?
Yes.
As a local
What's the
author?
title?
And Persistence of Vision.
Yeah. So Persistence of Vision, I met the author actually at a book signing of Land of the Dragon. He was awesome. So
Oh wait, so you were having a book signing for your book and he came by and he's like, I'm an author too?
yeah, he got my book and he was like, hey, have you heard of my book?
Was it like When Words Collide, or was it like...
No, it was at the Owl's Nest.
Oh, that's so interesting. So maybe they had some of his book on the shelf?
Yeah, well, yeah. And then, so this is a dystopian book. The author's actually a lawyer, so hopefully you won't get me for sharing your book.
No,
I doubt that.
So I read a bit of the back. I haven't read it, but I looked at it and I was like, this actually sounds really interesting. Which was the part, so Persistence of Vision is a speculative fiction about how social media, big data, and artificial intelligence affect our relationships with one another and ourselves. So I'm really interested in that kind of stuff.
And I love the cover. It's so fascinating if you look here, the cover. I love the puppetry.
So for a dystopian, I love this cover. And okay, so you know what I love about this book? And I've seen some books, sorry, that looks good too. I'm actually gonna borrow it from you and read it. But I wanted to mention, since we were talking about covers, like, this is such a great tattoo idea. You could play around with it. And look at this beautiful purple, right? And then you open it up and you get this like splash.
I know of yellow, purple and yellow go together.
Yellow.
And the smell.
Brand new.
The new book smell. Oh.
I've seen other books that are super impressive and have all these, like, you know, here. But for some reason, even just this little thing, it's so dystopian. I guess I can't see if you, and just the way they do the little chapters in the corner here, and I don't know. I love so much about it. I aspire to have like hardcover books that have a style or design. It's the way it's designed. Do you know what I mean? Isn't that nice?
Style, yeah.
It's
No,
kinda nice
it's
to
so
hold.
cool.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us at the Capitol for Positively Literary. We are
Stephanie Costigan
and Bianca Rowena, your author co-hosts of
Positively Literary.
May the odds be ever in your favor. See ya.
I do it this time?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Do you know how much I love these bangs? You know how in dystopians, just
we
you
stop?
have to be a tough. You just look tough with those bangs.
Really?
Yes. So you can have your head tilted to one side, and then what were you doing?
I was trying to do.
That's too much. That's too much.
Okay, let's redo. Okay.
Oh yeah, what do they do?
They go like this.
Yeah, no. So you can't do that. But
Because
you could,
it looked too
no, but
Hitler.
you could go. Oh no, everything looks Hitler. No.
Let's not. We can't go there. We can't. I was trying to do something with my hands, but thank you.
Sorry, I got distracted. Is there a red light? Does that mean we're out of time?